Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone introduces us to an orphaned boy named Harry, who lives a bleak life with his cruel relatives until he discovers on his 11th birthday that he is a wizard. Whisked away to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Harry enters a world of magic, friendship, and mystery. As he learns spells and makes lifelong friends, he also uncovers secrets about his parents' past and the dark wizard who caused their deaths. The story unfolds into a magical adventure centered around a hidden object known as the Philosopher's Stone, guarded within the walls of Hogwarts. The book is written by J.K. Rowling, who is a British author best known for creating the Harry Potter series, one of the most beloved and best-selling book series in literary history. She conceived the idea for Harry Potter on a delayed train in 1990 and spent years developing the magical world. Rowling's journey from struggling single mother to literary icon has inspired millions. Her work is praised for its themes of friendship, courage, and the power of choice, and she has continued to write novels for both young and adult audiences beyond the Harry Potter universe. Once upon a time, in a quiet English town, a baby boy was left on a doorstep under the cover of night. He was no ordinary baby. He had a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead and had just survived the most powerful dark wizard the world had ever known. Left with nothing but a letter and a name, he was taken in by his only living relatives, the Dursleys, who wanted nothing to do with magic. They locked away anything strange, including the boy's past, and raised him in a cupboard under the stairs. This boy was Harry Potter, and he grew up believing he was no one special. The Dursleys treated him poorly, giving their own son Dudley everything, and Harry nothing but chores. But strange things always seemed to happen around Harry. Sometimes his hair would grow back overnight. Once he even made the glass vanish from a snake enclosure at the zoo. The Dursleys would punish him, but deep down, Harry sensed he was meant for something more. On his 11th birthday, as the clock ticked closer to midnight, everything changed. A giant man named Hagrid appeared at the door and told Harry the truth, that he was a wizard, famous in a world he didn't even know existed. Hagrid handed him a letter from a magical school called Hogwarts, where he would begin his new life. The Dursleys protested, but there was no stopping what had already begun. Soon Harry was whisked away to Diagon Alley, a hidden street filled with wonders wand shops, cauldrons, and snowy owls. Hagrid bought him a wand that seemed to choose him, and a small white owl he would later name Hedwig. But the most important thing Harry learned that day was who he really was. The scar on his forehead was a mark left by the dark wizard Voldemort, who had tried to kill him as a baby. Somehow the spell had backfired, destroying Voldemort and making Harry a legend in the wizarding world. The next adventure took him to King's Cross Station, where he discovered Platform 9 3/4 and the magical train that would take him to Hogwarts. On board he met Ron Weasley, a kind boy from a large wizarding family, and Hermione Granger, a brilliant girl who read all her textbooks before term even started. The three formed a bond, though not without some early disagreements, especially with Hermione's know-it-all ways. When the train arrived, the first years were taken by boat across a great black lake to the castle that loomed in the distance Hogwarts. Inside, moving staircases, talking portraits, and enchanted ceilings awaited. They were sorted into houses by a magical hat, and Harry joined Ron in Gryffindor, a house known for bravery. Hermione did too, much to everyone's surprise. There was also a pale, sneering boy named Draco Malfoy, who ended up in Slytherin and immediately disliked Harry. Harry's new life was full of wonder. He took classes like potions, charms, and defense against the dark arts. He discovered he was quite good at flying on a broomstick, and became the youngest Quidditch player in his century. But not everything was magical in a good way. There were whispers of strange happenings, a three-headed dog guarding a trapdoor, and a teacher with a suspicious stutter named Quirrell. Something felt off, as if a secret was hidden deep within the castle. As weeks turned to months, Harry, Ron, and Hermione stumbled into their first real mystery. A troll got loose in the school on Halloween, and in a desperate bid to warn Hermione, who had been crying in the bathroom, they ended up fighting it off together. From that moment, the three were inseparable. Their friendship was cemented not just by magic, but by loyalty and courage. Soon after, Harry discovered a magical mirror hidden in a quiet room. When he looked into it, he didn't just see himself, he saw his parents smiling back at him. The mirror was enchanted to show the deepest desires of one's heart, and Harry found himself returning night after night, longing to see them again. But wise Professor Dumbledore eventually found him there, and warned him that living in dreams would not help him face reality. As Christmas passed and the school moved into the second term, clues began to surface about what lay beneath the trapdoor guarded by the beast. Hermione, with her boundless curiosity, pieced together a connection to a legendary stone that could grant immortality. The Philosopher's Stone, it was called, and someone was trying to steal it. The three friends decided they had to protect it, no matter the danger. As the summer passed and September approached, the Dursleys hoped Harry would forget the letter. But the letters kept coming, more each day, in more unusual ways. They arrived down the chimney, under the door, and even inside eggs. Desperate Uncle Vernon whisked the family away to a remote hut on an island during a storm, trying to escape the mysterious letters. Just as midnight struck on Harry's 11th birthday, a loud knock shook the door. Standing in the doorway was a giant of a man with wild hair and a kind smile. He introduced himself as Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts. He was there to deliver Harry's letter in person. When the Dursleys protested, Hagrid roared with anger and told Harry the truth. He was a wizard, famous in the magical world for surviving a dark curse as a baby. Harry's parents had not died in a car crash. They had been murdered by a dark wizard named Voldemort, who vanished when his curse failed to kill Harry. The next day, Harry set off with Hagrid to prepare for his new life. They entered Diagon Alley, a hidden street filled with wondrous shops with spell books, cauldrons, robes, and owls. They visited Gringotts, the wizarding bank, where Harry learned he had inherited a small fortune. Hagrid also retrieved a mysterious package from a deep, protected vault. Harry purchased his school supplies and a wand that shared a twin core with the wand that had scarred him long ago. At the end of the day, Hagrid gifted Harry an owl, which he named Hedwig. On September 1st, Harry boarded the Hogwarts Express at platform 9 3/4, feeling nervous but hopeful. On the train, he met a red-haired boy named Ron Weasley, who quickly became his first real friend. They shared sweets and stories, and soon a bright, bossy girl named Hermione Granger joined them. She had already memorized many spells and seemed eager to prove herself. There was also a cold boy named Draco Malfoy, who offered Harry friendship in a condescending way, but Harry declined. It was clear that Malfoy thought too highly of himself and too little of others. Upon reaching Hogwarts, the first years crossed a dark lake in small boats, guided by Hagrid. The castle loomed above them, majestic and mysterious, with its many towers and glowing windows. Inside the great hall, candles floated in the air and 4 long tables awaited them. Each student would be sorted into one of 4 houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin. The sorting hat, a magical talking hat, read each child's mind before placing them where they belonged. Harry asked not to be in Slytherin, and after some thought, the hat agreed he was sorted into Gryffindor, along with Ron and Hermione. Hogwarts was full of wonder. Staircases moved, portraits talked, and ghosts drifted through the halls. Harry attended lessons in charms, potions, transfiguration, and more. He quickly realized that Professor Snape, the gloomy potions master, disliked him intensely for reasons unknown. But not all teachers were unkind. Professor McGonagall was strict but fair, and tiny Professor Flitwick was cheerful and bright. One day, during flying lessons, Harry discovered he had a natural talent for broomstick flying. After catching a wayward Remembrall with ease, he was invited to join the Gryffindor Quidditch team as Seeker, the youngest in a century. Ron cheered him on, and even Hermione, who had begun as somewhat overbearing, started to warm up to him. Their bond deepened after a troll entered the castle on Halloween night. While the other students were rushed to safety, Harry and Ron realized Hermione was missing crying alone in a bathroom after a misunderstanding. They rushed to save her and fought off the troll together, an act that earned them her friendship for good. As the weeks passed, they began to notice strange things happening. A forbidden corridor, guarded by a massive 3-headed dog, nicknamed Fluffy, seemed to be hiding something. They connected it to the package Hagrid had retrieved from Gringotts. Meanwhile, Snape seemed to be acting suspiciously, especially around Harry's broomstick during a Quidditch match where someone tried to curse it. Hermione suspected Snape and even caught him sneaking into the corridor. Their curiosity grew, and they started uncovering secrets about the magical object hidden beneath Fluffy. They learned it was the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary item that granted immortality and endless wealth. The stone was being protected by a series of magical traps and enchantments set by the teachers. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that someone, possibly Snape, was trying to steal it. Their suspicions deepened when Hagrid accidentally revealed he'd told a stranger how to lull Fluffy to sleep. That same night, the trio realized the stone was in danger and decided to act. As the days passed at Hogwarts, Harry found himself quickly adjusting to magical life. He wasn't just another student, he was Harry Potter, the boy everyone knew, though he still didn't quite understand why. But fame didn't help with potions class, especially with Professor Snape. From the moment Harry stepped into the classroom, Snape seemed to dislike him, asking difficult questions, docking points unfairly, and watching him with a gaze that sent chills down Harry's spine. Still, Harry had his joys. He loved learning to fly on a broomstick, and it turned out he was a natural. So good, in fact, that Professor McGonagall surprised everyone by recommending him for the Gryffindor, Quidditch team unheard of for a first year. The excitement was electric. Ron and Hermione were thrilled for him, though Hermione had started to keep her distance. She didn't approve of rule-breaking, and Harry and Ron had a habit of stumbling into trouble. Trouble, indeed, came one night when they tried to avoid Filch and ended up accidentally wandering into the Forbidden's 3rd-floor corridor. What they found was shocking: a massive three-headed dog guarding a trapdoor. They fled, terrified, and began to wonder what such a creature was doing inside the school. Hermione, now part of their little group after a rather dramatic encounter with a troll on Halloween, added her keen mind to the mystery. The trio couldn't stop thinking about the trapdoor. Eventually, they overheard a name connected to it: Nicholas Flamel. Whoever he was, he must be important, for Hagrid had accidentally mentioned his name when they asked about the dog Fluffy, he called it. They searched every book they could find, until Hermione finally discovered Flamel's secret. He was the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone, a magical object that granted immortality and could turn metal into gold. This stone, they realized, must be what the dog was guarding, and if someone was trying to steal it, Hogwarts might be in danger. All clues began to point to Snape, who seemed to lurk wherever trouble brewed. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were determined to stop him, no matter the cost. As winter fell, Hogwarts sparkled with floating snowflakes and warm fires. Harry stayed behind during the holidays, and for the first time in his life, he received real presents, including an invisibility cloak that had once belonged to his father. Beneath the cover of night and hidden by the cloak, Harry wandered the halls and stumbled upon a strange mirror, the mirror of Erased. In it, he saw not himself alone, but surrounded by a family he never knew. The longing in his heart deepened, and he visited the mirror night after night, until one evening Dumbledore found him there. With quiet wisdom, Dumbledore explained that the mirror showed the deepest desires of one's heart, but it offered no knowledge or truth, only dreams. He warned Harry not to lose himself in it. The mirror, he said, would soon be moved to a new home, hidden from all. Spring returned to the castle, and the trio became more convinced than ever that someone would try to steal the stone. They discovered that Fluffy could be lulled to sleep with music, and that a series of magical protections, each more dangerous than the last, lay beyond the trapdoor. When Hagrid unknowingly revealed he'd won a dragon egg in a game of cards, and mentioned a detail only someone seeking the stone would want to know, Harry realized the thief had tricked him. Determined to stop the theft themselves, Harry, Ron, and Hermione decided to descend through the trapdoor. That night, beneath the cloak of invisibility and hearts pounding, they slipped past Fluffy with the help of a harp and dropped into the darkness below. They landed softly in a mass of tangled vines, Devil's Snare. It began tightening around them, but Hermione remembered it hated light and conjured a burst of fire, freeing them. The next room was filled with flying keys, all glittering and flapping furiously. Only one would open the door ahead. Harry mounted a broom and soared through the air, dodging and diving until he caught the right key with a bent wing. Through the door they found a giant chessboard. To move forward, they had to play as living pieces in a real game of wizard's chess. Ron, the best player among them, took charge. One by one the pieces clashed. With brave strategy, Ron sacrificed himself so Harry and Hermione could advance. Ron fell, unconscious but alive, and the two continued, leaving him behind in the still silence of the board. In the next chamber, a riddle awaited them with potions, some to move forward, some to retreat, and some poisonous. Hermione solved the riddle with her sharp mind, choosing the correct vial for Harry to continue alone. She turned back to help Ron while Harry stepped into the final room, heart pounding, expecting to face Professor Snape. But it wasn't Snape who stood there, it was Professor Quirrell. The timid man who stammered in class now seemed transformed. He admitted to trying to steal the stone and revealed that Snape had been trying to protect Harry all along. Quirrell was being controlled by a dark force as master, whose face was hidden beneath a turban. With a flick of his hand, Quirrell conjured the Mirror of Erased. Dumbledore had hidden a Philosopher's Stone within it, knowing only someone pure of heart could retrieve it. As Harry looked into the mirror, he saw himself holding the stone, and to his surprise, he felt it drop into his pocket. Somehow the mirror had granted it to him. Quirrell, unable to get the stone himself, turned violent. But when he tried to touch Harry, he screamed in pain. Harry's skin burned him. Fueled by hatred and desperation, the dark force within Quirrell revealed itself Voldemort, the dark wizard who had killed Harry's parents. He now existed as a weak spirit, hidden on the back of Quirrell's head, seeking to rise again. Voldemort commanded Quirrell to seize the boy, but each touch only burned him more. As the pain grew unbearable, Harry clung to the stone, feeling his strength slipping away, until everything went black. He awoke in the hospital wing, surrounded by sweets and cards. Dumbledore sat nearby and gently explained what had happened. Love, he said, had protected Harry. His mother's sacrifice had left a mark not on his skin, but deep within one Voldemort could not touch. The stone had been destroyed by Dumbledore and Flamel, ensuring it could not fall into the wrong hands again. School soon came to an end. At the final feast, Gryffindor House was behind in points, but Dumbledore awarded last-minute points for bravery. Ron for chess, Hermione for cleverness, and Harry for pure courage. And to everyone's surprise, even Neville for standing up to his friends. With those points, Gryffindor won the House Cup. With Gryffindor colors draped across the great hall and cheers echoing from every corner, the school year ended on a high note. Harry, Ron, and Hermione felt a sense of victory, not just in winning the House Cup, but in facing fears and growing stronger together. The warmth of their friendship had deepened through the challenges they faced. Even Neville, often overlooked, had found his moment of courage and pride. As the term came to a close, the castle prepared to send its students home. The trunks were packed, the owls rested in the tower, and the Hogwarts Express stood waiting. Harry, now used to the magical world, still found it hard to believe how much had changed since the day he received his first letter in the cupboard under the stairs. He no longer felt like the unwanted boy of Privet Drive. He had a place in the world, a place where he mattered, where he had friends who cared, teachers who believed in him, and a destiny unfolding like a map only just beginning to be drawn. Though he still had questions, and though darker days might lie ahead, he had something more powerful than magic on his side: the love he carried, the courage he discovered, and the bond of true friendship. As the train chugged away from the castle, the turrets slowly shrinking into the distance, Harry sat with Ron and Hermione, laughing over Bertie Bott's every flavor beans and dreaming of the summer ahead. When they arrived at the station, the Dursleys waited unaware of how much the boy had changed. But Harry didn't mind. He wasn't alone anymore. He belonged to a world where wonder lived in every shadow, and where his story had only just begun. And so the first chapter of a remarkable journey comes to a close. A boy who once lived in the shadows now walks in a world filled with light, magic, and meaning. But this is only the beginning. Ahead lie deeper mysteries, greater friendships, and trials that will shape him forever. As the train fades into the distance, we are left with wonder, warmth, and the quiet hope of what's still to come. Good night, and may your dreams carry you to places just as magical.